So when those conversations of what could we do to this car started happening, the project just snowballed out of control. We went from being pretty happy with our purchase of a running driving car to wanting more power, overdrive, better suspension, better brakes. And we tried to build a complete car here. So we thought about all the good companies we worked with before. For the engine, our immediate thought was Blueprint. For the transmission, we knew we wanted a Tremec transmission. QA1 has been a really good partner for all the Mopar suspension stuff that we like to put on these cars. And of course, Wilwood brakes. So once we started thinking in that direction, we realized that, we're gonna be welding in all these subframes on the car to get it stiffer, to handle the added torque and horsepower that we're gonna get out of the 426 Gen 3 HEMI. And then to make better use of the suspension, we wanted a stiffer chassis. So once those conversations started happening, we realized we wanted to paint the car, we wanted to smooth the engine bay, we wanted to redo the interior, on and on and on. So then teardown began. Okay, we're here, obviously working on a 70 Charger. Let's look at this big pile of parts over here. So all this stuff needs to go on the front end of that car. We've already got pretty much all the rear end stuff kind of where we want it. But this is all QA1. This is a big cradle to replace the K-member. We're doing coilovers, rack and pinion, and Gen 3 HEMI mounts. So the Gen 3 HEMI mounts are gonna be used for what's in this crate behind Blue's hood. And that's a Blueprint 426 HEMI, a Gen 3 HEMI with a 5-speed. And you can see over here, we've already got a bunch of the rear end stuff done. Yesterday, we got it all mocked up and hung it and did our ride height measurements and side to side measurements. And then Junior went ahead and welded on the tabs for the 4-link. So the cross members welded in for the rear 4-link. So no more leaf springs in the back of this thing. Really badass mod shocks from them. So this thing's gonna have a ton of tunability in the suspension. It's already got Wilwood disc brakes, Mopar 8 3/4 rear end. So this should be able to handle the power. And this car also got a bunch of chassis stiffening stuff. So we originally were gonna just throw a bunch of really good parts on a pretty nice car to start with, no rust or anything like that. But at that power level, we started thinking, well, it's probably gonna need some chassis stiffening. So it got all the US car tool stuff, which is subframe connectors and torque boxes all welded in to the chassis. That way with that 426 and all this QA1 suspension, the chassis will be pretty stiff. These cars are known for a little bit of body flex, so we think we got rid of all that. Now we're just getting ready to undercoat the whole thing now that all the welding's done. Cross members are in, all the chassis stiffening's in. Basically, it's time to undercoat it so it all looks nice and pretty, and then we'll start final assembly on everything. We're just getting all the upper control arms set up, and we'll probably get these all bolted in the car first.
So this is all from QA1?
Everything, yeah, QA1.
Best of the best or what?
That's it, nothing better.
And so this attaches onto...
This is gonna go on the car. These actually bolt to the car now that we did all the undercoating, painted the engine bay, welded all the subframe connectors in, everything's ready to start bolting parts together.
As far as us getting in here.
You wanna try and get that spacer in? We are setting up the rear coilovers to weld in the tabs, so we're just checking ride height, pinion angle, lateral side to side squareness of the rear end. We're going to weld on some tabs for the 4-link mounts. These are the tabs that we're trying to mock up to get into place where we want them. And we'll weld those onto the rear end. But right now we were just adjusting all the control arms to make sure the wheels are centered, front to back in the wheel wells, side to side in the car. Make sure all that relation is good. And then the ride height's where we want. Right now we're about to just set the pinion angle, and then we'll know where to tack those tabs on. We are going to continue assembling this front end. I think we're going to put the engine and trans in it. And hopefully by the end of the day we'll have a car with a drivetrain. This is all the front suspension from QA1. their mod shocks and everything assembled, and then Junior on the car is assembling all the rear suspension. So he'll have the rear end in, and hopefully we have the front end in too. We are trying to put this all in from underneath, but so we're gonna bolt it into the K-member first. Make sure the trans clears the tunnel, make a hole for the shifter, and hopefully that's it, and everything goes back together finally.
So is this our first time really uncovering this thing? And
yeah, I think we took the box off once just to verify that it was there and it existed. But yeah, this is our first like real look at this thing, so it's nice. It's extremely nice.
Can you walk us quickly through what we got here? Because
yeah,
it's a lot.
So yeah, okay. So this is a Blueprint sent us this like all together as a package. It's a 426 cubic inch naturally aspirated HEMI. So they start with like a Hellcat block basically, and they do like bigger forged internal, so it's bored and stroked to be a 426, and then it has really good. I think these are like the Apache heads from like a 392. So they flow really well, and then a custom fabricated intake, and then a Holley engine management. So it has a Terminator X Max, CVF front accessory drive, all bolted on and everything, and then a Tremec TKX. So I've been wanting to put one of these TKXs in a car because they're a little bit more compact, and they're a real beefy 5-speed. They can handle a ton of torque, way more than a normal like T5, and they have overdrive. And in theory, they fit in a factory transmission tunnel. So we're actually about to find out right now if that's true or not. But we're gonna bolt it all into the QA1 cross member.
Can we walk over and check this thing out? Because it was a whole build, and
yeah, so we got like a lot of this assembled so that we can bolt the engine into here, and then we're gonna slide it all under the car and see how it all works out. But I have a feeling we're gonna be like a couple times up and down with the lift, you know, getting everything squared away. But this is like really, really nice parts are starting to actually go on the car. So it's an exciting day.
what's the advantage of, like, you know, you have this body over here, and you're gonna go in from the bottom. Like, what's the challenges? What's the problems?
Okay, so with these Mopars, because the K-member bolts up from the bottom, a lot of times if you want to drop the engine with the transmission, if you do have a lift, coming out of the bottom is much easier. It's 4 bolts that bolt the K-member to the frame rails. There is times where if you're just doing an engine, you can go in here through the top. But because this core support is like, you know, it's sheet metal, it's nothing super thick. So if you are going in with an engine and trans, you got to angle it. We just painted all this, smoothed the firewall, smoothed out all the holes in the engine bay, and Junior sprayed it this nice satin black. So I really don't want to be like scratching this or anything. So when you go up from the bottom, you kind of remove all the risk of scratching any of this, maybe denting this, or like changing angles when you're going in. So it's a lot nicer when you do have a lift and you're able to just drop it up in from the bottom.
All right, let's see how this goes.
Yep.
This thing is awesome, by the way.
Let's see. So you tried the 916. Now you're trying a 13 mil. Oh.
Oh, what?
I told you. I told you. He's like, it's gonna be standard. It's a 916. I was like, bro, that looks like a 13 millimeter. I told you.
So here at this point, you can see we have the car as what we call kind of a roller. So all the suspension is done, all the welding for the 4-link is done. We have the car on all 4 wheels, it steers, and then at this point we also have the engine and transmission in, and you can see the rest of the car is completely stripped. So we gutted the interior, stripped all the moldings off, all the chrome, all the glass was off the car, and that's the way we set it up to go to body and paint. So at this point, we're getting ready to load the car up. It's gonna go to SV Body and Paint. And then that way, when we get the car back, we're a little bit ahead of schedule with bolting parts on. And it's mostly plumbing, wiring, trim, glass, and interior from there. So this is how you see the car. We like to make it so that we can push the car on a trailer. Some people like to put the body on a cart. I have found in our experience that a lot of these cars, when you want to bodywork and paint them and set the gaps better than they were new, you basically want the car sitting on the suspension that it's going to be sitting on when it's fully assembled. And that way, if you get any variation in the body actually shifting or moving or twisting, I have seen situations where a body on a cart is resting on a different weight pickup point than it would normally with its suspension. So that's why we get the car to this stage, send it to body and paint like that. And then when it comes back, we know that everything is still gonna fit correctly the way that we set it all up. And the rest of the assembly process is gonna begin after that. So check us out, and the color is gonna change pretty soon here. Not drastically, but it will change. All right, we are getting ready to send the 70 Charger to paint. So it's gonna go back to red, but there was a lot of little imperfections that we didn't like. So we're gonna take care of those. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for our spot to free up from paint, we did some work on it. So we got the Blueprint 426 HEMI in there. It's all sitting in the QA1 cradle, and it's got a TKX transmission behind it. We got the Wilwood master cylinder set up, big Wilwood brakes, Ring Brothers hinges. So we kind of got everything prepped, and the engine bay is already painted. Junior did a killer job smoothing the engine bay. Everything's shaved and painted. So it'll just be red on the exterior and then black in the engine bay. And then when we get it back, it's just a lot of plumbing and wiring. But yeah, we got pretty far ahead on it. And then Junior and I also welded in a bunch of subframe connector bracing. So this car has full subframe connectors, torque boxes all around. Just a bunch of stuff to make it handle this power. But we wanted to get that all done before it went to paint while we were waiting for our spot. Now it's just painting the shell, and then we're gonna start putting it back together. So at this point too, the engine and transmission being installed in the car is something we don't always do while it's at paint, but we had such a tight timeline on this car that the deadline just kind of dictated us not pulling that whole K-member in and out a few times. Once we knew it all fit, we wanted to leave it in there because we knew it was gonna be at body and paint for a little while. So the minimum that we can get a car painted in is probably 2 to 4 months, somewhere in there. And you know, it just depends. On this car, it was already painted, so that had to be stripped down. Then we could really know the condition of the body, truly know how much body work it was gonna need. So we wanted to make sure that we had enough time in there to do a high quality paint job. So we were rushing to get it straight to Victor and Siggy at SV Body and Paint so that we could get it back in shop and just go full bore on reassembly. And SV Body and Paint came through. We delivered a car that had a red paint job. It was okay. It needed a lot of work. They did a ton of work to a really big car in a really short time. So shout out to those guys for knocking it out of the park for us. And we went with Viper Red. So what better, like on a Dodge Mopar product, than the best red that ever existed is Viper Red. So we chose Viper Red. You don't see a lot of these cars in red, so I think it's gonna stand out. We're gonna put a few custom touches on it. It's getting a set of wheels and tires. We'll set the ride height and get this thing slammed back together. That's what Junior and Adrian are working on right now. So this thing is going back together Fast and Furious style. Like we're gonna jam on this. I think it's all hands on deck for a little while because we wanna try and get this car to you guys early next year. So with the time frame, it's September 10th. So time is ticking. We gotta get on it because once it's done, I wanna drive it for a little bit. I wanna put some miles on it, make sure everything's shaken down for everybody. And just experience what a 426 Gen 3 Hemi is like. I've never driven a car with a 426 Gen 3 Hemi. I wanna see what that power band feels like and just have some fun.
getting the finishing touches on this 70 Charger. We're just about ready to take it for its first drive ever. Spar's is going to take it out, and of course we will take you guys with us.
All right, we're golden. So it's gonna be the first time. We're just gonna try and take it around the parking lot. After doing everything, we just did like kind of a systems check. All right, so the first test drive happened, and I don't ever expect it to be perfect when it's, you know, a completely hand-built car from the ground up. The biggest factor in these cars now is that we're running a full Holley Terminator X system on this car, and sometimes the computer, it gets sent with a baseline tune in it that a Blueprint had to dyno the engine, do a power verification, make sure everything was in safe parameters. But when it got to the time that we had this thing hooked up in the car with a stick shift behind it, it started seeing some conditions that it's never seen before. And so the test drive went a little bit rocky. Let the clutch out little by little. There it is, reverse. Sweet. And we stalled her. As far as like idle issues. And so I was a little concerned at that point because we were on such a crunch, but luckily we partnered up with a really good tuner that knows Holley systems like the back of his hand. He was able to see what was going on in there, clean up the tune really quick. The good thing was that all the mechanical parts in the car felt really good. The transmission was working well, no strange noises anywhere else. So all things considered, a little bit of cleanup on the tune for the idle issues was a good thing. At the time, I was stressing, I'm not gonna lie. I wanted this thing to just first drive, do everything perfectly, and it did really well. Which is weird because we were pushing it and it felt okay. I wonder if that's just that alignment. Rolls out in first. I wonder if that reverse being like solid is because we have the toe out and the alignment, it's like dragging the front tires. But driving cold feels pretty good. Those tires are sticky, you can hear them like. So I pushed the clutch in and it's got to kind of catch itself. Clutch feels good though. All right, so far so good. Yeah, it does a little rev hang, like the computer wants to die when you push in the clutch, so I'm waiting on a dongle to plug into the Holley. All right, well, let's pull it in and see what happens here. Yeah. So very end of the build, basically the car looked complete. On the exterior, there's really not a ton of trim items to put on the car, so we tried to get all that on first. The interior is actually somewhat complex. Although this is a base model interior, there's a lot of parts on an interior. Everything is chrome moldings, trim pieces, door handles, armrest. There's just a lot of little things you have to think about and make them all work together correctly. And everything's new on this car. So everything from the headliner to the carpet, we had to customize the shifter handle to feel right ergonomically, setting up the seat position on the car for anyone that's from 5 feet to 8 feet tall is always a task. Luckily, there's a lot of room in a Charger to do that. So the goal, I think we achieved amazingly, and that was to build a car that anyone can jump in and just really enjoy driving. That's what RestoMods are all about, is getting a classic looking car, and a Charger is one of the best looking muscle cars that ever existed, but they didn't drive too good. So we wanted to make that happen for the eventual winner. So if you want to get entered to win, you want to experience what driving a fully restored and modified Charger is like, make sure you hit restomods.com and you could be behind the wheel of this fully restored and modified 70 Charger.